Welcome to Will's Personal Development Podcast. It's me, your host, Will Chow, and today we're doing something different, which is a short episode. That way, you may probably actually listen to the end and get value without having to dedicate an hour or half an hour of your time. Now, today we're going to be talking about why are Asian American men still generally following the same trends. I think they're getting better, I think, maybe, but I still see a lot of young people every year coming out of school or entering college or leaving college and still following the typical Asian American nerd trend. Now, since I am an Asian American and a good portion of my audience is, I thought it would be worth addressing. Now, I think despite all the new topics that I've put out, others have put out to improve and help these types of people, I think Asian nerds, whether they're Asian Canadian or Asian American or whatnot, they will continue to be pumped out and have the same general issues of their culture because this is a large macro cultural trend that's happening from the billions of people in China and other Asian countries that are creating it. And then, the percentage, whatever that is, 1%, 10%, who immigrate to North America, those cultural trends remain. There's still a high focus on academics, which usually means that these children, although they develop some good qualities like a high level of willpower and discipline, they oftentimes end up lacking in various other areas because their focus throughout high school and college is simply getting good grades, which means they're either forbidden or they cut out or they neglect their social life and athletic life and so forth. Now that's just a big general trend because I know there's definitely exceptions, I know of them, but you do see a lot of these type of Asian nerds. All of them have glasses, and I was definitely one of them. And then they end up going to the workforce after college with finally a decent job. Maybe even after all that, still not a decent job. They still have to work up the workforce. And they found that they are way behind in social skills, social intelligence, fashion, athleticism, physique, building and forging good social networks and friendships, and all these other high quality of life results and factors that actually potentially matter most or more. Because I think the false assumption here that I think works well in the minds of a lot of their parents is you get a good job, you make a lot of money, the money will kind of facilitate everything else. Now, arguably, yeah, you can spend a lot of money on dating coaches and so forth to play catch up, but that's a huge catch up race that you have to play. And then also, it's oftentimes a kind of manufactured way of learning things where it's not always as natural and organic, and you don't learn as much as you can as if you actually had friends and went through that whole experience dating and interacting with people throughout your life. So I want to talk about this problem, and I also want to acknowledge and pay respect to all the exceptions to that rule. Because while that is a general stereotype, I do believe there's plenty of people who don't follow that stereotype. It is still a stereotype because a lot of people do. But, I have met young Asians who are somewhat, athletic, somewhat well-dressed. Some of them have really good physique. Some are tall, some are handsome, some are actually very kind of dominant or masculine, or at least they know how to be attractive to women. I mean, even like 15 years ago, I remember I was in school, and this was like a partial Chinese school thing I went to, and one of the people in my class was this emo Asian guy. He didn't have glasses, and he would spend the whole class just making out hardcore with this Asian girl, and they were both really sexy and edgy. And for me, it just kind of went over my head then, because I was just oh, that's really awkward, and I didn't know what to do, so I just ignored it. But there's definitely tons of people today. I mean, I followed this guy called Jack Hans Smiles. He's a dentist. He's a young Asian guy. doesn't wear glasses, always very stylish. And I know I've met people in person who are also like that. They don't wear glasses, they're Asian, but they have really good style and fashion just because they enjoy art or fashion. So I don't. I also think that when people talk about Asians, they tend to stereotype and just say or assume that all Asians are like a certain way. But I've met Asians who were on the football team or are part of a frat or do well with women or have that style or those social skills, popularity. And so I want to give props to them because when I see them, I think, wow, they're breaking the stereotype. They're helping us all out. They're showing it's possible, but also they were able to achieve that way earlier than I did. Nowadays, I think I've definitely put in a lot of work with my style and fashion, and you can see some of those upgrades on my blog, willyoulaugh.com, or my Instagram, No Excuses Will. But despite that, that took me years and years, and it happened well later in my life. So props to all these people, and I think it's good to know and remember that not all stereotypes follow that rule. Now, how do they get there, and how come the bulk of us still remain in this phase where our style is just like rather bad or average? We're talking t-shirts and white sneakers, or we're all skinny, or we don't go to the gym, or we're overweight, or we all wear glasses, no one gets contacts. How does this all happen? Well, a lot of it's cultural, but there's definitely tons of people who break free of that. And some of it's because they have more lax parents, or they just have general interest and natural genetic skills that allow them to express that. The people the Asians I knew who were really good at fashion, I asked one of them, he said, I just like art a lot. So kind of building off your strengths. But I think it ultimately comes down to every day, every week, every month, intentionally seeing the areas that you need to work on and find the areas you're really lacking and actually make those improvements. Some of it's lack of awareness. Like I was recently part of a coaching group, and the coach was a dating coach, and it was like this virtual thing. And the coach was basically like, hey, all of you have glasses. Like, why don't you try contacts? You all look very nerdy. So it's something where I think there's just a lack of awareness, but then there's also this resistance to change, where I think only a couple of us ever actually got contacts despite that advice. So there's a lot of that coming on, but I definitely think that we all have the potential to improve and change. But when you just lack that for a while, and you're very isolated, you're always in your room studying, it becomes kind of a mountain to overcome. Like even some of the way that they talk, you can just tell that they're just far from removed from real life, because the way they talk, some of us Asians are just it's very stunted, it's very shy. There's a lot of insecurity, nervousness. We stumble over what we say, or there's just a confusing way we speak, or we can't process ideas well or in a natural way. So sometimes you can just tell with certain ones that they're really behind in that area. So as far as a game plan, I think baby steps, but constructive, thoughtful steps is really the approach that anyone in this phase should start with. I mean, rather than staying in your room all week, throw in 2 social activities where you're actually engaging and talking to socially intelligent people and getting that reference experience. This could be a Young Asians barbecue. I went to a few of those through meetup.com, and that's where you'll start to see the variance. You'll meet people who are socially fluent as an Asian male, and some that are less fluent, but you'll be able to even meet women there and be able to start engaging and practicing. And then it's not just the experience, it's the reflection, it's the observation. You have to learn from that. Just going to it isn't enough. Bad practice isn't how you do it. It's a perfect practice that makes you improve. So start with the social things and then be observant. See and look at the people who are succeeding in those social groups, and you'll start to realize, oh, this guy has this type of skill. He's popular. He's well dressed. How can I start dressing a bit better? And so I think those are your first steps to get from beginner to intermediate, arguably. And then I found that to get to the next level from intermediate beyond, you have a lot of blind spots. Like I used to think, oh, I dress well. My fashion is on point. It was not on point. But I couldn't tell because I got into a level where I had blind spots or beliefs about my fashion that were just off. And I really had to consult people. I literally paid someone to go shopping with me who was good with style. So those are kind of things that can take you to the next level when you have that feedback of a coach or someone who is well versed. But I think starting off, we're oftentimes way behind in those areas, which is unfortunate. The best we can do is to make the most of our current situation and improve. So hopefully this was helpful and concise for once. I tend to ramble. And let me know if you enjoyed this rather than those like 30-minute, hour-long talks. Let me know if you actually made progress, if this helped at all. You can reach me with contact info is at my website, willyoulap.com. And I'll see you in the next podcast.